Now we're going to start with actually measuring your project. I'd like to just draw your attention to the Dimension X interface button, which I'm hovering over right now. If your system is not licensed for Dimension X, this button will be disabled. In other words, it will be grey and clicking it will not have any effect. It won't work. Mine is enabled because I have Dimension X installed. However, we're not going to discuss Dimension X here. It will be the subject of a later tutorial. I'm going to go direct to the cost plan datasheet where you measure cost plan items, i.e. you start to measure your cost plan. In a new job, the first time you open this window, it will be empty, as you see mine is. In QSPlus, you start with a blank slate, you add items to measure, and then you measure them. So where do you find the items that you're going to add? It will be here on this button called Library Items, which will take you to the library so you can select what you want to measure. This is the now familiar Windows Explorer type of display. You click on the plus signs to open any area, and then you'll be shown the items, the cost plan items on the right hand side. You'll notice the structure here, which is the primary element, the element, and then the sub-elements or components, and of course the actual measurable items are on the right hand side. I'm going to select some reinforced strip footings. I'll just select that one. Now, I highlight the item that I want to save. I can highlight a few at a time by pressing the Control key down and clicking if I want to. However, I'll just take one of them for now. It shows me at the top the description of the item that I'm going to measure. It shows me the unit of measure, the rate which is associated with it from the library, and an item called Q rate, which is a quick rate if you would prefer to use a rate different to what came from the library. I think that's enough for now. We can save the item and hide this window by clicking Save and Hide. The library window is just hidden in the background for your next item that you want to save. So let me take another one and do that again, and you'll see how the list of items builds up. So both items that I saved are listed and are ready to be measured. If I wanted to delete an item, whether it's been measured or not, let's just say you don't want that item for some reason. You simply highlight the item and you press the delete key and then confirm that you want to delete it. Okay, so to measure this item, I can either double click in the record selector bar, or I can click DIMS, or if I know that I want to AND on from some other item already measured, I can click AND on, which we won't do now. We'll just double click. While I'm here, I'd like to show you that the EQ, which is the elemental quantity flag for the item that I have saved, is not ticked. That means this item does not form part of the elemental quantities, and the reason for that is that the unit of measure on this item does not conform to the unit of measure for the element, which you saw earlier was square meters. If you missed it, go to the Help tab, click the Guide to Elemental Estimating, and locate the data for this particular element, which we know is substructure. Okay, to measure, I can double click and it will open a dim sheet for me, ready to receive my measurement. Right, I'm going to measure the walls in the basement. So I know that this unit of measure is linear, so I'll be measuring around the basement. Please notice that because the system knows I only require the first dimension for the linear meter measurement, it has automatically skipped dim 2 and dim 3. So if I take the two sides of the building, there will be two, let us just call this footings, and the others will be longer, and there are two of those as well. So that is my total. I need to tell it where the wall is, and of course it's going to be in the basement. Basement is a location which doesn't have a factor, so it's defaulted to 1, and here is my total. What you'll notice is that the quantity for the cost plan item, as it builds up over can be many dimensions, is all those dimensions would be added into this quantity that is shown to you here. If I want to see the detail of the item that I've measured, I can go to the rate buildup, where I'll see for the cost plan item all of the bill items which actually make up the cost plan items. In other words, I see test tubes, I see excavation for trenches, I see risk of collapse, I see backfilling, blinding, concrete in strip footings, reinforcement, and the like. Notice that my formulae have been brought through from the library, and each formula creates a result, a formula result. The amount that I have measured is on the cost plan item is 130, and that has been multiplied in each case by the result and the rate arriving at an amount for the underlying items. The amount listed at the bottom of the screen is the amount for the cost plan item, in other words the quantity of 130 multiplied by the rate that is listed against the item. If for any reason you wanted to change that rate, it doesn't feel right to you for some reason, you could put in anything else that you wanted. Now, if you enter a quick rate, it will be used instead of the listed rate. So please remember that the quick rate will always be taken as the correct rate if it exists. If you don't want a quick rate anymore, you can simply take it out and you'll see that the amount has been recalculated. I'd like to return to this screen, which is the rate build-up for the item that we were looking at, because when you don't have a rate build-up, this checkbox input, include add-on percentages, is not visible. But when you enter a quick rate, it becomes visible, because the system wants to know whether you want to include subcontractors' markup, etc., on the quick rate. Now, this would apply if one of the packages in this list were something other than the principal contract. So, in fact, the question doesn't apply to this item. But it's important that you should know what it does in the event where you might be measuring something which is going to be subcontract work, and you would select a different package for some of the items in the list. Now let's say we want to build a wall on top of this footing. We will go to the substructure and have a look at the concrete walls. I'm going to choose that one, and I'm going to say save it and hide this window. So what happens now is it's going to have saved to my job this wall, including its rate build-up and its rate. Note that I left the quick rate in on the first item, and you see it listed in this column. If the quick rate exists, the amount that is shown will be the quantity multiplied by the quick rate. It remains to measure the foundation wall. Now, it's going to be the same length as the footing. So I'm going to use the footing measurement to add on to this wall measurement. I can go to the and on window by clicking this button which says and on. However, if you make a mistake and you go to dims by clicking this button or double clicking next to the item, you can take yourself to and on by clicking that button. Okay. Also note, if you click this dimensions button, you'll go back to the standard measured input. Right, so let's start by saying this is in the basement, and I'm going to look for my strip footings. I'll take this item because it's the correct one. You'll have noticed that, in fact, I beg your pardon, you'll have noticed that the items are sorted in reverse order. In other words, the most recently measured item will be at the top. And there is my total of 130, and I'll say foundation walls. Done. So let's have a look at the rate build-up for the wall item, where you'll see that it's a concrete wall, where you'll see that we have the concrete in the walls and foundations, we have rough formwork to the sides, we have our reinforcement, and we have test cubes. Each of these items has been put together using the now familiar formula, and the formula result in each case is shown in this column. We have rate codes which have come from the library, and that's the rate. So that would be the associated result of the measurement multiplied by the result multiplied by the rate. If you should want to see the dims that you've measured so far for any item, simply select that item by clicking next to it, to the left-hand side of it in the record selector bar, and click this button, Captioned View. And it will show me that so far I have no measured items, i.e. measured dim for dim, and I have one anded slip. If I go to the first item, I will see that my measurement was in fact 130. It wasn't anded from anywhere. It was measured. I should point out that you cannot and on from an anded slip. You can only and on from a slip that you measured, and it must be in the same section as the slip that you measured. For example, we have one section in this project, single section, so it follows that all the dims that you and on from will have been measured in single section. But in a project where you have multi-sections, for example, office block, leisure centre, external works, etc., you would be confined to anding on from slips measured in the same section. Another useful feature is this button, Lookup and Ins. If you want to know where you've used this item's quantities, you can click Lookup and Ins, and it will show you that for this item, the strip footings, which was dim sheet number 75, whose total was 130, the item that has used its measurement is the walls item in the basement. This target total means the total of the target slip, which is the wall slip, and that is in concrete walls in Substructure. If you want a quick look at what you've measured so far, you can click this button, Print Abstract, which is also available from this button on the ribbon. If I select primary elements and say I'd like to see the locational detail, because my job is locational, and click OK, I'll get this printout which will show me not quite what I was expecting. If you want a quick look at your measurements to date, You can click this button, Captioned Print Abstract. You can get to the same place at any time from this button on the Cost Plan tab of the ribbon. You click either one and you'll be given the option, if you want it, to filter for a particular element, group element, and location. If you want locational detail, in other words, showing you the location of every dim sheet, you tick the location detail box. Now what you'll notice is I selected all, so I'm listing the rentable areas, the construction areas, the elemental quantities, and on the next page I should have my substructure measurements. It's just quite a good way of keeping track of how far you've got. Please note that all reports in QSPlus open first in screen view. This is called print preview, and you can print the result of your preview or send it to PDF or XPS you can print it to your default printer by clicking the print button on the quick access toolbar, and when you've finished looking around you can close the print preview by clicking the red X. The last command button on this window that I'd like to discuss is this New Items button. If you had a need to create a cost plan item which is almost identical to an existing one, you could simply use this button and change what you want changed. Let's just say I'm making a different size of footing. I would need then to change the rate build-up for the item. It is now 850 instead of 750, so I would change the 0.75 width to 0.85, and please have a careful look at the result column here, because as soon as I change the width, every item which uses that width variable is going to change. Okay, so you will have seen that the excavation at 1 meter deep changed to 0.85, and as a result the associated amount changed. And when we come back to the cost plan datasheet window, you'll see the new item listed there. Okay, you'll see the new rate, which changed as a result of that changed width. And of course I had a quick rate, so it's remembered the quick rate. If I didn't want to use it, I could simply delete it like that. I forgot to mention these two buttons, Move Item and Cancel Move. They are disabled, which means you can't click them, nothing will happen. They're disabled until you select a particular sub-element. Okay, and now what you can do with them is to reorder your items within the sub-element. If you have all sub-elements chosen, the buttons are disabled. Okay, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to move the 750 wide strip footing to underneath to fall below the 850. So I click on the item I want to move, I click on Move Item, and then it says here a little caption, please select the item beneath which to move, and you click on the one which was the 850 and it moved it. I'll just do that again so that you can see. I highlight the one, now 850, and I want to move it to below the 751. I now click on the 750 description and it does the move for me. That can be quite useful. And cancel move is if you don't want to do it after all. So I'll highlight the top one and I'll say move the item, and once I've done that the cancel move button is enabled and I can use it. So it just abandons the operation. And so, as you saw, cancel move simply abandons the operation.